Hello and welcome to the Wellness League podcast. My name is Jenna and I'm one of your hosts.
My name is Ella. I'm also one of your co-hosts. Welcome back to another episode. We're up to episode 11 now. We've got Nathan on the pod this week. How you going, mate?
Not too bad, yeah.
How was your
Not bad.
week?
It's been busy. It's been hectic. A lot going on, family-wise and work-wise, and with mum in hospital, and three ambulances in 4 days, and
pretty intense.
some very early mornings up at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
patching up heads and things like that. But that's life.
So a bit of context, Nathan is my neighbour, so I saw most of those ambulances as well, and I was like, oh no, what's happening again? Yeah, look, week was good. It was nice that it was a 4-day week this week. And
Yes.
I do like those weeks.
They're
You get more
always good.
productive. You get more stuff done and know the weekend's almost there.
Yep.
All right, should we jump in?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what's your earliest memory of being fit or aware of fitness?
I don't really think that I've ever not been involved in fitness, I suppose. I was
Yeah.
thinking about that earlier today, and there's never been a time when I haven't been.
Yeah.
I went to school just down the road, went to primary school down there, and
Yep.
I remember I used to bounce my basketball on the way to school or ride my bike, and I was playing soccer at under sevens when I was 6,
Yeah.
when I was playing, like all kids, playing
Yeah.
all a million sports like yourself. And I never really, as a kid, I guess you never really think about it as fitness.
Yeah.
Riding up Anstey Hill with my dad and over the top of the hill, and he was on his road bike and I was on my BMX. And
Oh, God.
I don't think there was ever it wasn't fitness back then. It was just stuff. You just
Yeah.
did stuff. And I don't know at what point it became fitness. I suppose when I was trying to make the state basketball team, I suppose.
Yeah, what age were you then?
I probably went for my first state team in about under 12s, so that would have put me around. I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
whether
were you
that
tall
puts me
then
around.
as well?
I was a tricky one. I was tall through primary school,
Yeah.
and I was a big, chubby kid, and much bigger than everybody else. And so for basketball, I was a centre because I was
Okay.
tall. I was bigger than everyone else, and people came up to my shoulder. And then by the time I got to year 8, all the girls shot past me.
Oh, right.
And then the boys started going past me in about year 9, year 10, and I just sort of continued on that slow growth.
Yep.
And then I had this high squeaky voice, and I remember when I changed schools and I was playing in year 10, I was playing basketball in the open A's, and I can remember screaming for the ball a few times and hearing people on the other teams, belittling me for my high squeaky voice. And by then everyone had gone past me and I was a guard and I was short. So trying to transfer my skills as a centre to fast guard work was really tricky. But then something happened sort of around the holidays from year 11 through to year 12, and my voice
Right.
broke in the school holidays.
Oh,
and
lucky
then
though.
and I started to grow, and then I think I got up to sort of beyond average height, and then like the year after school, I actually thought I was short
Right.
because I'm old enough to be back before the internet.
Yeah. And you couldn't research that.
No, well, it was funny. I tell a story to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was living at the Australian Institute of Sport playing water polo,
Yep, we'll go into that in a bit in a sec.
and one of my best mates, who's still one of my best mates to this day, we moved over there the same week and we came back the same week. And I remember walking over to the pool one morning, and I can't remember how the topic came up, and he said, because we were the shortest and the second shortest out of the 20 in
Oh,
the squad.
wow.
And all of our friends were either swimmers who were taller or rowers. The men's 8 was there, the women's 8 was there, and the men's and the women's 8, big people.
Yeah.
They're big people. I knew a few of the soccer players, and we just thought they were soccer players and they were midgets. That's just what we thought.
Yeah.
And the Jimmies, they were all the gymnastics people. We just thought, well, you got to be small for that. But
Yeah.
rowers, swimmers, even the netball girls, the
Yeah.
water polo players, everyone was tall, and we were the two short asses.
Isn't that crazy?
And I was 6'4" at the time.
Oh, wow.
I'm a bit shorter now after a couple of back ops, but
Yeah.
I was 194 centimetres, and he told us, he said, we're taller than average. And I
Had no idea.
I honestly was living in this little cocoon of sport and had absolutely no. I didn't believe him. I flat out didn't believe him. And as I said, before the internet, and he said, well, after training, we'll go back and we'll go to the library because they have a library on campus, and we'll go to we'll find the encyclopedias and we'll drag them out. We'll find out what the average height is in Australia. And there is no way that we're taller than the average person. No way. We're short.
Yeah.
And I remember then we researched it, and I still didn't believe it, even seeing it in writing. And I remember going to a nightclub when we got back in my partying days, and we came back to Adelaide on a holiday. And I remember seeing DJ across the nightclub, like 20 metres away, looking at me and indicating the height of everybody else as we looked head and shoulders over everyone. And I was like, oh.
So there's pros to it.
Yeah, this is, okay, we are taller than some people. It was really confusing.
All right, so you mentioned water polo. Where did that come from?
As I mentioned before, with the primary school down the road here, I used to play basketball every morning, and basketball was my thing. I used to get there an hour before school every morning and play an hour of basketball and play basketball at lunchtime and play at recess time, and all we did was play basketball. And then my mum used to say she could hear me coming back up the road
with your ball
bouncing my basketball, and that was my thing. That was what I was into. And I was cut from the state. I wasn't cut from the state team. I never made the state team.
Yeah.
2 years in a row, I was the first reserve in different age groups each year, and wasn't quite good enough to make the state team, which is what I dreamed of at that age.
Yeah.
And my year 6 teacher was a state water polo coach.
Oh, wow.
And he still, to this day, when I see him, he bags basketball and says that it's an American sport and it's not an Australian sport. Mind you, water polo isn't either. That's a very Eastern European sport.
Yeah, I was going to say, where did that originate? Yeah.
I'm not sure, actually. I should know. It's probably originated in England, and they're really no good. It's a really big Eastern Bloc sort of sport. It's big in Hungary.
Oh.
Any of the countries that were from the former Yugoslavia.
Yeah, right.
They're all good. They all broke up, and they're all still individually. They could
Strong
still make
teams.
basically the top 5, and then you throw in Hungary.
It's so interesting. It's just not a sport a lot of people talk about unless either you watch it at the Olympics or you know somebody who plays it.
Yeah, in Australia, or
Yeah.
if you go to somewhere like Serbia or Croatia or Montenegro.
Yeah.
There's thousands of kids playing like we play AFL here. There's just hundreds and hundreds of kids carrying chairs in the pool, using their legs to hold themselves up, and they've got that huge pool of talent to choose from, whereas we don't here.
Yep.
But yeah, as I was saying, my year 6 teacher, he was obsessed by water polo and still is. I saw him the other day down the street, and he stopped and talked water polo, and he pushed and said, get out of that sport and come and play water polo. And I just wasn't interested. I was just not interested at all.
Yeah.
And I had asthma as well as a kid, and my GP used to say we need to get him into swimming.
Okay.
And something that my mum was a good swimmer when she was growing up, and she taught me to swim in the backyard pool, but I was never a competitive swimmer. Interestingly, I never did swim lessons at school because I just wasn't interested. I was one of those little nerds who sat there and did art class instead while everybody else went off, and there were 3 of us left doing swimming, doing art. But yeah, eventually he talked me into trying flipperball, which is a modified kids version of water polo.
Yeah. Where did you do that?
Durnan Court Pool, which is no
I
longer
was gonna say,
exists.
that's the thing.
Oh yeah, it's right. There's a bridge there and some wetlands there now, and that's all there is. So it feels funny that's how old I am, that there are places that don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But pretty quickly we moved to the Adelaide Aquatic Centre, and they had nighttime competition there, and it's like water polo, but you can touch the bottom, and you can touch the ball with 2 hands and things like that. Like most Australians don't know a lot about water polo, but you can only touch the ball with 1 hand. The pool's 3 metres deep. You can't touch the bottom.
Is that the dive pool that they use at the aquatic centre?
Yeah.
So this is the pool that I spoke about that we swam laps in a couple of weeks ago, and I literally had a panic attack because it was so deep. It honestly freaks me out swimming in that pool.
I grew up in that pool, basically. I was in that pool 6 to 8 hours a day for 20 years.
Just the thought, and not like the bottom is so far away.
Yeah, it's funny. You get used to it, and there's still a novelty of swimming down the bottom 5 meters deep. And when you swim down 5 meters deep and you look up to the top, it looks like a mile away.
I do that in like a 2 meter deep pool, and I'm happy.
But the FINA rules for water polo, it's played in a 50 meter lap pool, and they shorten the pool, the field of play to 30 metres, and it's 3 metres deep constantly throughout the pool, and it's the pool's as wide as 8 lanes. So we moved to the aquatic centre, and then only played a couple of seasons of football before moving into playing water polo. And I started in about year 6, or I did start in year 6, and then I was.
So you would have been about like 11, 12 then.
Yep. Round about then, and pretty quickly started going okay.
Yep.
And then got into like the feeder for that club, which also doesn't exist anymore. Got into that club and started playing in their water polo grades, their kids grades, so that they've got some junior grades. And then I think in the first year I was into the C grade open men's team at like primary school level.
Is there many teams still left in Adelaide?
Not many left anymore.
Yep.
My theory is that a lot of it is due to moving the new aquatic centre down to Marion.
Okay, yeah.
And moved everything so far away from the city.
Yeah, especially people like the northeastern side of town. Like that's another half an hour drive.
Water polo in South Australia traditionally came from private school backgrounds.
All in the eastern suburbs.
Yeah, and everything's sort of city-centric.
Yeah.
Blackfriars would be one of the bigger water polo schools, and probably still is. I haven't checked. I've sort of fallen out a little bit. Life takes over, and the eastern suburbs private schools competition was pretty strong.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then when you've got on Friday nights the schools competition played, and then when they finished, the National League team would get in and train, and they'd see the National League team there.
Oh,
and it's not a sport like AFL where you're seeing it on the TV. You have to run into them in person.
Yeah.
And so to have us there, and many of us refereeing the games and then getting in and training, and the kids still hanging around going, oh yeah, okay, so that's where I could be. That's what I could do, and then seeing how it translates. Now it's all sort of, it's so far away for half the city, and Adelaide's such a skinny town.
It's like anything within 50 k's is like Adelaide, and then your country.
So it's real. I think it's ruined a lot of aquatic sports. Yeah, we're lucky with swimming that
there's more places and opportunities to do it.
Yeah, and even though the SASI, the South Australian Sports Institute, has moved down to there with SASI, we've got people like Pete Bishop, who one of the best swimming coaches in Australia, and then he's got Kyle, who's won Olympic gold medals, and then Kyle's brought, who originally was his girlfriend, over, and they're not together in a relationship anymore. But then other people came down, and as that sort of developed, now they've got a bigger pool, and then all of a sudden you've got 5 Olympians in the one squad, and then people are drawn to that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But water polo doesn't really have that.
Yeah.
Diving has basically fallen apart from my observations as well. That used to have a club-based thing, and now they've got one club, South Australia.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so where did you go from playing your age group, and then how did you get selected to go to the Institute of Sport?
That was actually a bit of something that I'd sort of always dreamed of. Yeah. But never thought was possible.
Right. In any sport you were happy to go there?
Yeah, I was that was more I was blindsided by that. So I played for my first under 20 state team when I was about 15. So I played in the under 20 nationals 5 years in a row. So I was probably
Were you the youngest in your team then?
When I first started, yeah, and then became the captain for probably the last 2 nationals, I think, something along those lines. Can't exactly remember. And then so I was still playing in the under 20 state team at nationals, and then we would train. So Friday nights used to be our big training session. Yep. So as years went on, and it was easier when I finished school, we'd do, say, a Friday. Friday was always my favourite training day.
Mm-hmm.
Friday morning we had training from 5:30 to 7:30 in the mornings, some swimming, some ball work. Go home, have a rest. If you're meant to be studying, you often didn't. Go home, have a rest, have something to eat, go back to the pool. We'd do weights from, say, 2 to 4, and then we'd do 4 till 6. We'd do ball work and skill work and some...
Out of the pool?
No, in the pool.
Yep.
And then we'd have a game training from 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
So we'd have 4 hours in the water Friday night, and it was
good.
all pretty intense. And back then we had... We probably had about 40 people trying to get onto the National League team.
And how many are in the national team?
So in this is National League, so it's like comparable to, say, a Crows or a Port
20,
Power.
30 players?
So you have a squad of 20,
Yep.
and then you get 13 on game day.
Okay.
And it was a real honour back then to be able to get into the squad.
Yeah.
And there were 20 people that weren't even good enough to get into the squad. So there were people
crazy.
fighting to get into the squad.
Yeah.
And then the way that we used to run that training session was we'd have all the National League guys and the guys trying to get into the National League team, all the men, the senior men. And then we'd often have the junior state team there as well. And we'd either mix them up or we'd play, if it was closer to nationals, you'd play the junior state team against the Jets, the Adelaide Jets, who were the national, or still are, the National League team.
Yeah, right.
And face off against each other and play an hour-long training game. You just play quarter after quarter after quarter and see how that went. And so we'd do that all the time, and then some of us
let's go back.
would
So
get
water
invited.
Polo
Yeah.
games, quarters, how long? Like, give us a bit of a quick rundown for people who haven't really heard about this.
Okay, so it's probably changed a bit since I retired in 2010.
Okay.
And I originally planned to continue training with the guys because I love it so much.
Yeah.
And I still do love it. It's just a matter of trying to get to the pool now that it's down at Marion. So there's probably been a lot of changes.
Yep.
When I was playing, it was 7 minutes actual time each quarter, which depending on the type of defense. So the clock stops for all the fouls. So if there's a foul, clock stops, and it may only stop for a second.
Yep.
So
But it adds up in the end.
Yeah, and it adds up. So if you're playing like basketball, there's zone defenses and there's a press defense and a press
And they got
defense.
an amount of time that they can be in each half.
Yeah, there's a shot clock.
Yep.
24 seconds from memory. Gee, it's been that long. It's now 2023 and I retired in 2010.
Yeah.
And
13 years, mate.
I do really miss it.
Is there a Masters team?
Well, there is, yeah, and I often think about going back.
Oh, well,
but
there's
my
always
body,
next year.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, each quarter, depending on the type of defense that's played. So if you're playing a zone defense, it can take about 15 minutes. If you're playing a press defense, which like say in a basketball, that's a man-to-man defense, it tends to stop more often because the ball gets past foul, foul.
Yep.
And that can take 20 minutes, 25
Is there
minutes.
a max to how far it can be pushed out each quarter?
No.
Oh.
No, you can keep stopping each time the ball goes out of field of play. It stops. If there's, you're stopping for something like a penalty. So if it's a really, really sort of rough and physical game, it takes longer, and you're wrestling a lot more. And on those rough physical games, like there was a team that we used to play in Balmain. Every time we played Balmain, we knew it was going to be a long game, and we knew it was going to be tough, and we knew people would be getting out with black eyes and possibly
interesting.
torn things, and we knew it was going to be rough.
The breaks in between each quarter, how long are they?
2 minutes.
Okay. Really? Only 2 minutes?
Yeah.
And in half time, same?
Yeah.
God, that's quick.
So you go quickly. And then I think from memory, there was a 5 minute break if it went to extra time, but I'm not sure. And then the extra time, again, I sound like I've never played the game, and I played for 25 years. It's something in the order of 3 minutes each half for extra time.
Do you think the times, so like a 7 minute quarter rather than like a football game being like 20, 25 minutes, is because it's such a physical game?
Yeah. Yeah, you're always on the go.
Yep.
So it's interesting, people
comparing it.
People ask me about the water polo physique and why water polo players look the way they do, and that we were always given crap by a lot of other athletes for real skinny legs and then the real V-shaped upper body, strong looking upper body. It's a power sport from the waist up. Okay. So it's
Don't you need your legs to be strong to keep you up in the water too?
Yeah, but that's endurance.
true.
So you think about a marathon runner, an endurance runner, or a 10,000 metre runner, and they're all scrawny and it's all light. And that's what your legs are just constantly on the go. Like
Yeah.
the old duck under the water thing. Your legs are constantly moving.
Yeah.
Whereas upper body in water polo, you're wrestling, you're fighting, you're holding on.
Yeah.
It's a real rugby type strength sport.
Yeah, interesting.
So
Yeah,
it's
back
it's
to,
got a real combination of endurance, but also power in
It's
the
kind
sport.
of, yeah, it's interesting. There's not many other sports that are like that.
No,
In that kind of setup. So back to when you were playing, and then Sassy, when did that happen?
that was sort of backwards for me because, as I described earlier, with the we had that state set up where we had the National League team that was playing, and
Did you play interstate with that too?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So that was a national league
Yeah.
that I played in.
So you go away like weekly to other states to play? Or?
Well, water polo, there's not as much money as there is in, say, an AFL or a soccer or something along those lines. So what we used to do is go away, say, every second or third weekend,
Okay.
and you'd go to a place, and one year you'd play. Say if we went to Perth, Perth had 2 teams, I think. They had Freo and they had Perth.
Yep.
And so you'd fly over and you'd play, for example, you'd play Perth Thursday night, and then you'd play Freo on the Friday night.
Yeah.
And then you'd play the first team again on the Saturday.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, sort of around 2:00 in the afternoon, you'd play the second team again.
That's
Then you jump on the plane
really
and fly back.
smart.
So, and then the following year they'd visit you.
Okay.
And so you'd play each team twice for a season, but
In the same weekend.
financially, the way it worked, and that was hard for a team like Adelaide because we only had one team.
Right.
So you'd go to Perth and you'd play 4 games in a row,
Yep.
and I'd generally play every minute of every quarter and come home and be shattered. And
So what happened where like teams like Perth came to Adelaide and only played Adelaide, or did you have another state join you here?
They'd either play us Saturday, Sunday, which was often the way. They'd come in and play us Saturday night. You'd have the 8:30 game, and then we'd back up and play the 2:00 in the afternoon game, which is a fair turnaround.
Yeah.
And that would either happen, if they did that, they'd often go to Melbourne first. So
Okay.
they'd play Melbourne. Melbourne only had one team, or they'd been somewhere else. Sometimes if they'd been to ACT and played a team there, or Tasmania and played a team there, those teams have come in and out of the league over the years.
Right.
Or sometimes you'd play them Thursday, Friday. So you'd play the Thursday, Friday, and then they'd leave us on the Saturday morning and go to Melbourne and play Melbourne on the Saturday night.
So in Sassy, how many years were you training or playing?
Yeah, sorry, that was
That's all right.
that was your original question.
Yeah, that's
so
okay.
that came from, so we had that state sort of organisation that I was talking about before,
Yep.
where we were playing National League, and we had the state under-20s team, and we didn't have Sassy water polo at that point.
Oh.
And then back to your earlier question, so I hadn't thought that I was ever a chance of going to the AIS. I looked at some of my heroes of Australian water polo that had been to the AIS, and I thought there was never a chance I could be there. And one, was it a Sunday morning or it was a Friday morning. I'd been to training on Friday morning, and I came home and been to bed. And yes, back to my old man references, the home phone rang, and I ran down and picked up the home phone, and there was a number I didn't know, and there was Don Cameron, who was the AIS
Oh my God.
goalkeeper coach, and he rang me, and I'm, what the hell? How does he have my number, and why is he calling me? And he
Surely
said,
the yellow pages about
yeah, he said, we've noticed you haven't applied for the AIS. Why not? And I said, well, and he said, are you aware that to come you have to apply? We can't pick you. You have to apply to come.
Oh, I thought it was a whole picking scouting kind
No,
of situation.
well, sort of. So you have to apply to go,
Yep.
and then they look at the applicants and decide who they want.
Yep.
And I hadn't applied. And they rang me and said, why haven't you applied? And I said, well, I don't know. That's for the good guys. And they said, well, you can't come unless you apply. So are you interested? And I said, oh, yeah, but I start my architectural drafting course on Monday. And they went, well, you're on the 12:40 flight with DJ. When you get here, we'll give you a week's trial. And if we like you, you'll have to fill out an application and say that you'd like to come.
Oh.
Oh, okay. So my life dramatically changed
In a
from
phone
then.
call.
And I had to pack my bags, not knowing whether I'd be away for a week or not knowing whether I'd be away for a year.
Wow.
So I was pretty freaky at 17, having never lived out of home, and went away, and they liked what they saw. And then I had a training camp with the national team I was playing for the Australian under-20 team at the time.
Yep.
So I had a training camp for like a week and a half in Sydney after that. And one of my best mates who was in that team brought a whole couple of bags worth of stuff for me.
Yeah.
And he brought it over for me when he came to the training camp. And then so I had some clothes and things to try and live off. And then my parents drove some stuff over that week after. And so I lived at the AIS that year. So that was back in 94, the year after school.
Yeah.
And then Sassy was getting built up for water polo that year. And I'm
Where
pretty
was the Sassy location at that time?
that was run at Kidman Park.
Yep.
But the water polo was pretty much all out of the aquatic centre.
Yep.
Everything was out of the
And
aquatic
then,
centre.
did you live interstate with that as well? And where were you for that?
So I was living at the AIS at the time, so I didn't need a Sassy scholarship because I had an AIS residential scholarship. I was
Yep.
living in Canberra.
Yep.
And then when I came back in 95, then I just went into Sassy.
Yep.
Almost by default.
Right.
And then I couldn't tell you I don't think that was a case of applying. I just kind of got a Sassy scholarship,
Yeah,
and then I
yeah.
was with that until I retired in 2010.
Wow.
So
So in your competing career, what's the highest you got? Did you get to the Olympics or did you get to
No.
the Commonwealth Games?
No.
Or?
So when I was at the AIS, that was like the long squad, the unofficial
Okay.
long squad for the men's senior team.
Yep.
And I was just a kid.
Okay.
And their plan was back in 94 that from that pool, and I was in the group that they were looking at
Yep.
for the 2000 Olympics.
Okay.
And I'd never thought I was a shot at the Olympics. And then once I got there, I still couldn't quite wrap my head around it. And still, I look back and I was a bit immature at the time.
Right.
You know, a 17-year-old boy who would
Yeah.
think that they're immature, and didn't really grasp the situation that
Yeah.
that I'd been given and the opportunity that I'd been given. Didn't grasp it well enough. And I was in the Australian junior team then, so played 94 and 95 in that team, and then I lost my spot to one of my best mates now, who
Wow.
went to the World Champs in 95, I think. Yeah, and then I was still thought I had a real good shot. I personally thought I was one of the better players to get in.
Yep.
And never played for the senior men's team, played for the junior team. Then I played for the Australian University team. So
Yep.
most people in Australia don't know about the World University Games. The World Uni Games.
Is that almost as big as the Olympics? It's just kind
Yeah.
of under all the people.
Yeah. It's bigger than the Commonwealth Games. And
Wow.
until I got told that was a possibility to go to that,
Yeah.
I didn't know about it either. And you turn up and they're at the opening ceremony. It's a multi-sport event like the Olympics.
Yep.
But it's not only Commonwealth nations, so it's
everyone.
worldwide, and it's open to people who are either at university or comparable
Okay.
institutions. So it's basically everyone of that age anyway.
Yeah.
And the water polo competition was there were 4 of us in that team that weren't in the Olympic team. So it was like a pseudo Australian B team.
Right.
And there were some teams in that were really top shelf. So it was,
Yeah.
and we always tried to do very well.
Did you travel overseas for that?
Yeah.
Where'd
So
you
that
go
was
for that one?
that was in Palermo in Sicily.
Oh, how
And
good.
it was unreal. It was one of the best experiences of my life.
Yeah.
Walking out in the opening ceremony with 105,000 people in the Olympic, well, not Olympic, but in
Yeah.
the stadium
Wow.
on the running track, and everything you see of Olympic opening ceremonies, it was exactly that. We just don't get the coverage here.
That's crazy.
And it was mental. And one of my mates said to me, like, we had these straw hats that everyone wanted and I couldn't get my head around it. And he said, when you walk in, take your hat off and wave your arm, look up into the crowd and wave your arm, see what happens. And he'd been to a couple of them. And I
Yeah.
did that. And it's like this human wave that just went up the stands. And it was brilliant. We had,
so good.
I think the capacity for our outdoor water polo stadium was 10,000.
Wow.
And they filled that and then they had buildings around the pool that people were clambering on top of and looking over the top. And then they being Sicily and being Italy, they just let people in as well that stood around, that didn't have seats, that stood around the pool. They were standing about 10 deep. They had to shut the gates in our first game because we were playing against Italy.
Yeah.
And there were people at the gates and there were people everywhere, and the helicopters flying over. It was absolute mayhem. Like everywhere we went, we had a police escort.
Oh.
We had police stopping the streets, going the other ways as we drove through. And
that's amazing.
It was something bizarre.
So was that like the highest you got, and did you compete in that games again?
No, never again. So I only did that once, and that was awesome. And we got a bronze medal in that, and so that's my most prized sporting trophy, is having my, not world champs, having the World Uni Games bronze medal is still my most prized possession.
I've actually never heard of the World Uni Games.
Yeah,
but
it's huge.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was massive. And then obviously we got to go and watch other sports after our competition finished. And like you see in the Olympics, we could go and watch some swimming or go and watch some gymnastics, or the football was awesome in a huge stadium. And it was really, really cool.
After your career in water polo, how did you transition then into triathlon and Ironmans?
Another one that I didn't really intend on doing.
Okay.
And another one that I didn't.
So when you retired, what happened?
The intention was, so I retired in 2010.
Yep.
And the intention was to still go to the gym every day.
Yep.
I like going to the gym. I like lifting weights. Yeah, I'd never really thought too much about longevity of life or wellness, or wellness certainly wasn't even a word.
I don't think
that
people
I'd
were
heard.
talking about it back then, though.
No, it was just, I like training and I love going to the gym, and I love hurting myself. I love that. I love
the pain,
pushing myself. Overcoming.
Yeah.
I love that. I was still doing weights 5 times a week.
Yep. Were you doing like a similar program to what you were doing while you were competing?
Yeah. That's the sort of stuff we liked.
Yep.
And then I was also, so that was 2010 that I retired. In 2008, I started getting into cycling a bit. And my dad had always been, since I grew up, not a competitive road cyclist. He just did it for fun and for health. And he was always riding a bike. And one of my best mates from water polo was a cyclist as well. And I remember Chris O wrote this email from cycling over in Europe, and I read that and I was like, I was so inspired. And I loved, he just had a real way with words, and loved what, I loved the story that he put together about what he was doing. Yeah. So I got into road cycling, mainly for time with Chris O and for spending time with my dad.
And I feel like cycling is really good for that.
Yeah, it's really, really good for those sorts of companionship. Yeah, so I'd been cycling very socially since mid 2008, and I was at the age where I was starting to think, this is really cool to spend time with my dad and do things with my dad. Yeah,
so you already had your swimming, then you got your cycling. Where did the running come in?
So then I was cycling. Saturdays we'd do a long ride, and then I was doing Tuesday, Thursday mornings as well. Yep. So I was cycling 3 times a week. And then I was doing weights 5 times a week at that point. And then I didn't want to lose my swimming. So I started swimming, dropped that to Friday mornings only, because there was this bunch of guys that I started cycling with that they were from a triathlon background, and I was not interested at all. But I thought, well, I can swim with them, and I can go to the gym that they go to, and I can swim. And then they do Friday morning, they do swim and breakfast.
Oh, how good.
And
that's a deal.
Exactly. And so we started swimming Friday mornings, and then after swimming Friday mornings, I noticed, from training 2 or 3 times a day, every day, or 6 days a week for 20 years, the swimming time started to really suffer, and I started to find it really hard swimming only once a week. So I added in a Wednesday as well. So I was swimming twice a week. At that point, I think I was cycling 4 times a week, and I was doing weights 5 times a week.
Wow.
And I was meant to be retiring, and I thought, this is great. I don't have to do water polo anymore. But I was training a fair bit. That was 2010, and that sort of bubbled along with that group for a couple of years. And then in November of 2012, I think.
Yeah.
I should know. My wife left me on our second wedding anniversary.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and then I was faced with the choice of being obviously completely distraught.
Yeah.
Do I go to the pub and do what most people do and bury myself in alcohol, or do I bury myself in something else that I'm not good at? And I thought, an Ironman is ridiculous. What a dumb idea that's incomprehensible, and I can't see how anyone can do one. Let's give that a go.
What a way to like help your mental health, though, right?
As it turns out, it's the best thing I could do.
Yeah.
So I rang up one of the old marathon coaches from the AIS that I was good friends with, John Bell, who was one of the block supervisors. So the blocks, we all had blocks that we lived in. We lived in block 8,
Right.
block 7 next to us with most of the track and field guys.
Oh, okay.
And he was the supervisor of that, and he was a marathon runner, and him and Dee Costella started a running group of Indigenous people to get them from just Indigenous communities to go to the New York Marathon and finish that. So he knew
interesting.
how to get people from zero to running a marathon.
Right.
And I said, do you reckon you'd be able to get an old water polo player who's never run a kilometre in his life to run a marathon in a year? And he went, yeah, absolutely. I said, okay, do you want to help me? Yep, done. So he started.
But there's running a marathon. There's running a marathon after you just swum, was it 3.6K?
3.8.
3.8K, then into 180K cycling, then a marathon?
Yeah. And one of the good things about having never done one was I really had no understanding of how ridiculous
Probably
that is.
Good idea.
So I think that's the only way that I got into it, was I didn't comprehend how ridiculous that idea was. I knew it was ridiculous and I knew it was stupid.
Yeah. But honestly, it's probably the same amount of money to doing an Ironman than it is to go to therapy.
Yeah, yeah.
So you really just kind of put your money
And I
into
just
somewhere
absolutely
better.
buried myself.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And I went from, I felt that with my water polo, I was throwing absolutely everything I could at it by the end.
Yeah.
And as I said, I never made the Olympic team, and my goal was to make the Olympics,
Yeah.
which I never made. But every time I'd get a little knocked back, I'd try and throw something else at it. And is my diet right? My diet's not. How can I improve my diet?
Yeah.
How can I improve my sleep? Oh, how can I improve? Maybe I can lift weights slightly differently. Maybe I can get stronger in this area. Maybe I can push a bit harder in that part of the pool and get myself a bit faster. And I was looking for little micro gains across the board and everything. And I went to Ironman, and it was, I'm shit at everything. Absolutely everything. This is so completely out of my comfort zone. And it was brilliant because I started further down the bottom that I could remember ever being in any sport that I'd ever done. I was so bad that literally each session I went out, I was noticeably better than the session before.
How good.
And it was huge. It was unreal. Instead of trying to make these little microscopic gains that I maybe wasn't sure that I was getting.
Yeah.
I was getting noticeable gains. I was
That's crazy.
every run. So my run started. Belsy told me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
He's real old school. Get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, make your bed. And he
Okay.
was really insistent on making
still
your
make
bed.
your bed?
Yeah.
So do I.
make your bed. That's the most important thing. He said, then run, I think at the time it was 250 metres.
So down the road and back.
Yep.
Yep.
Under the cover of darkness, so no one can see you. Run 250 metres, do a U-turn, run back.
Yep.
2 days later, let's do 500 metres and come back. And then you're up to a K. And I thought, wow, I'm running a kilometre.
Wow.
And then the next day next time it was, run a K, come back. Then it was run 2 Ks out, come back. And did that until I got up to like running out 5 Ks and back 5 Ks. And before I knew it, I was running 10 Ks. And I couldn't believe it that I was running 10 Ks. And then I started getting into like adding those running sessions. And I think I was running about 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And it became apparent pretty quickly that I didn't know what I was doing. And
Did you go and do any short course races before
No.
you went to the... Oh.
well, no. So I hadn't planned on it. I was never interested in triathlon at all.
Right.
There was no interest in triathlon in any way, shape or form. But I just thought the Ironman was so ridiculous that I thought, well, let's give that a go. I never thought I'd meet anyone that had done an Ironman, let alone do one myself. And even doing them, I've done 4 now, and every time I finish one, I just can't comprehend that I've done that. It just makes no
Yeah.
sense. And the feeling of pride after running the marathon at the end of an Ironman is
Yeah.
something that I can't even put
I
into
feel
words.
like it's a sport that doesn't compare to anywhere else. Like, where else, other than maybe ultra running, but then you're only running.
Yeah.
Like, what other sport do you push yourself so hard in 3 different sports for
Well,
that long? And
That's right. And then before I'd actually signed up to do one, in 2012, a mate of mine who'd done 10,
wow.
he called me and said, hey, Melbourne are putting on an Ironman.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a relay event. I've got a friend that wants to do one. He said, I don't have the time to train for one anymore.
Yeah.
But he's talked me into doing the marathon. He'll do the bike. Are you
Yep.
interested in doing the swim? And I'm like, 3.8 Ks. I mean, you can do that in my sleep.
Yeah.
And so I went and did that. And a friend of mine he is still to this day, who you've met, still to this day, he's South Australia's highest placed pro at the Kona at Ironman
Wow.
World Championships.
Crazy.
He's still waiting for Steve McKenna to go and blow his time to pieces.
We
Which
talk
is,
about Steve all the time going to do that because I obviously train at Triathlon and his brother's the coach.
yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a common occurrence.
So
Like, one day it will happen.
yeah. So when Steve goes and does it, like Maddie White has finished higher.
Yep.
Finished faster,
Okay. But not higher in rank.
but higher, not higher.
Oh, interesting.
So
How long do you give Steve McKenna to get up there?
well, all he has to do is really all
A good prep season. And
all he has to do is turn up.
yeah.
He'll qualify, and then his time will be
Yep.
great.
Yeah, true. So next
He-
year?
Hopefully,
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. And Sharpie keeps saying you can't wait to see what Steve can do, and he said, and then I can stop clinging onto the
Talking about Kona, isn't it? A couple of weeks away? Sorry?
it
Yeah.
is, and
Yep.
it's females only.
What?
Yeah, so this year they changed it. So the men were in Nice,
Oh, I heard about
and
this.
they just had that like a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And then the women are in Kona because of numbers.
Because
they-
there's so many now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, so the way they're going to do it is, and then the plan is next year it'll be men in Kona and women in. I don't know if the women are going to be in Nice
Or somewhere
always,
else,
or
or
it's
world
going to be
champs
somewhere else. Yeah. And they alternate that. I don't know.
That's
I don't know enough
honestly
about
really
it. I don't
smart.
really follow Ironman pros like I follow.
I'm like getting
other
deep
sport.
into that now. Like I'm picking up. I watch more of the girls and the highlights and anything at
Yeah.
the moment. But yeah. It's
Yeah, so
interesting.
that's, is it this weekend or it's
I think
normally,
it's in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
because it's always, it's often I really struggle because I try and watch Kona and Bathurst on the same
Bathurst
weekend.
is
And
this
it's,
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a big weekend for me when I'm
Yeah.
watching sport because I love Bathurst. I grew up with my mum watching Bathurst. So that
How
really excites
good.
me as well.
Talking about your Ironman, where did you do your 4 races?
So as I was trying to say before, but I always get
Welcome to
Terribly
the life of podcasting.
verbose.
I told you about this before
Yeah,
we
yeah,
started.
you did. So I went away and did the relay, and my mate Sharpie said, "Beware, you'll
Yeah.
go and you'll see it, and you'll get swept up, and you'll have to do one yourself." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Pfft, not a hope in hell. Like,
Honestly,
I'm not
it's
there.
so
That is so
addictive.
beyond anything that I could conceive myself doing." And then when I saw, so when you do the relay, you stop. You like I did the swim, got out of the water.
Yeah.
Mate went off and did the bike. Went and had some breakfast. When he finished the bike, then we got in a car and we drove the 40 Ks back up to St Kilda to watch the finish.
Yeah.
And then you get to run over the finish line together.
Oh.
So you get that feeling of running up the finish chute, which if you talk to anyone that's ever done an Ironman,
Yeah.
you can't
the
put into
finishing
words
shoot. Oh, I
the
love watching
feeling
those videos.
of running up the finish chute. Still to this day, that's 90% of the reason you do an Ironman is
Yeah.
to run up that finish chute.
Well, half the
it's
reason I got you on today
unbelievable.
is because Busso is next December. And I'm thinking of doing it.
Awesome.
A half, though. I'm going
Okay.
to aim for half next December, which gives me like a year to train
I
for
would
it.
love to do Busso again.
Well, December
We'll see.
2024.
my body has to hold up to the training program first. but,
Watch out, we might both be there.
that'd be great. That'd be excellent.
Yeah. Anyway.
So anyway, I went away and I saw some of the fittest people I've ever seen in my life
Yep.
literally collapse at my feet and vomit, and thinking, if this is seeing some of the fittest people I've seen ever in the best condition of their lives. Literally collapsed into muscle failure and throwing up uncontrollably.
Yeah.
Like that. It was incomprehensible. And then running up the finish chute was in one case, it was exhilarating and
Yeah.
and amazing, but also I felt like a real pretender because I hadn't done the bike and I hadn't done the run.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm here and I've got this medal around my neck, but
I've only done a
I'm not
quarter of
I'm
it.
not worthy of it.
Yeah. A third of it, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, or
You deserved a third of the medal.
yeah, or not even. I feel like still in Ironman, I think it's so skewed
Yeah.
towards a runner that it's ridiculous. Like plenty of people will swim 6Ks twice a day.
Mhm.
Swimmers will swim at least 6Ks a day, twice a day, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
An Ironman swim's only 3.8. It's nothing. But then you follow it up with a 180K bike, and most people aren't riding 180Ks
No.
every day. There's a lot of people that ride 180Ks once a week.
Once a week, I
as
was
their
going to
long
say,
ride.
yeah.
But I'd struggle to find someone who'd run 42 kilometres every single day.
No.
Or even once a week, would someone run a 42K run as their long run?
Probably
They're probably people around,
Is
but
there
I
something
don't
about
know
you
them.
train that you run up to maybe like 30, 35 in
Yeah.
the long run, you never push the full amount until you get there?
So I find it, for me, it's so skewed to a runner,
Yeah.
that sport. And so,
Or a cyclist, like a very
Yeah.
good cyclist who
Yeah.
can run off the...
but a swim, like the swim's just a warm up. You just get in you, and I mean,
It's a good way
someone,
to warm
someone
up.
like someone like myself, you're out of the water in anywhere from 51 to 54 minutes,
Yeah.
and then you're riding for 5 hours. Like
Yeah,
it's just
crazy.
so chalk and cheese. It's
But
so
then
completely
it is a
different.
good warm up because you warm up your whole body.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I felt that I'd half-assed it, and I was a pretender, so I had to go back.
And so where were your
so then I
races
went
did?
back and I did Melbourne
Okay.
the following year. So I did Melbourne in 2013.
Yep.
And then I signed up. I loved that so much that I signed up for Melbourne for the following year.
Yeah.
For 2014.
Yeah.
And then my partner and I fell pregnant. Well, I say we fell pregnant. That's
You did 30 seconds
she
work.
she fell pregnant. And she said, you're not doing Melbourne next year, because that was in March and she was due in April.
Okay, that's fair.
She said that's too close. And I went, okay, well, what if I do Busso in December and back it up a few months? She was, yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
All right. And sort of reluctantly let me. And she came away and watched as well. And so I'd done, in 2013, I did Melbourne in March and I did Busso in December.
Which one do you like better? I think I'm going to go with Busso because apparently it's flatter.
Busso is a course far better suited to me. Out of all the courses,
Yeah.
Busso is far more suited to me. What I found, though, was I was really let down in Busso by
Okay.
the atmosphere. The atmosphere in Melbourne was awesome. And I've never been a fan of Melbourne as a place,
Yeah.
but they put on a great event. It was brilliant.
Is
it
my
was
question
so
though,
good.
is the ride flat? Because that's my problem. I want to go somewhere where the ride is...
Well, Melbourne, it's not a consideration anymore because that Ironman doesn't exist, so don't worry about that. That was sort of slightly undulating.
Okay.
Busso, yeah, it's a great course.
I don't know. Melbourne's back on because it's on
Oh,
next, like 2 weeks.
yeah, there's a 70.3 there, yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
well, I
that's about
wanna go
halfway
s-
down the course.
Okay.
So it's very similar
Yep.
sort of a course, not the
Right.
same.
And
And
your fourth one?
then so I did my third one in Cairns in 2013.
Did you
So
have to heat train for that?
I did.
Yeah.
So back to my ex-partner, I talked her into letting me do the 70.3.
Yeah.
And then 6 weeks beforehand, I flipped over to, what I did was tell my coach, hey, look, I'd love to do the full.
Yeah.
I've got permission to do the 70.3 and I've entered the 70.3.
Yeah.
Let's get me to a point where I'm like 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
And if I've done the Ironman training, well, then we've lost nothing. And I'm fit.
Whoops, I just
Oopsie, let's just
Got
flip
the
me into that.
wrong number.
Yeah. So let's transfer. And that's exactly what I did. I got 6 weeks out and I said, look, I'm going to do the full. You're coming anyway. You're going to be there watching anyway.
Yeah.
All it means
What's
is,
the matter? A couple more hours.
yeah, what's a couple more hours without me?
Yeah.
You lose nothing. You're not losing anything more in the training because I've already done the training.
And you
We're
gain
there.
everything.
Yeah. So she works for Uni SA. She was the manager of the School of Pharmacy and Medical Sciences. So she was really worried about me. She knows that
The effects of the
yeah,
heat and
she was
everything.
thinking June for an Adelaide person where it's 5 degrees here and you're training in the cold and the rain, going up there it's 28 degrees and 85% humidity.
Wow.
How are you going to handle that?
So we've been talking about in the triathlon group how Next Gen's inside pool is the perfect way
It's
to
great.
heat train.
My
because
coach
that
at
pool
the-
is so hot.
Yeah, well, my coach at the time said to me, beware, like the water in Cairns is 28 degrees and it's a wetsuit swim
And
because
so
of the
is
stingers.
Next Gen.
And he said, you won't survive. And I went,
Have you swam inside at Next Gen?
next gen, the pool's 32 degrees. Like, it's not an issue.
This is why I swim outside at Next Gen, and I am that crazy person who swims outside all year
Oh,
round,
yeah,
no
I
matter
can't-
what the weather's like, because of that indoor
I
pool
can't
being
do
so
cold.
hot.
Yeah, I can't do cold. I hate it. So she got me some sessions in the environment chamber at
Oh,
Uni
cool.
SA.
Yeah, nice.
And so I was doing runs and bike ergos in the environment chamber.
Oh, that's smart.
And they were using it. They gave
For
that to me for
research.
free. Yeah. So they'd have young students who were looking to get their hours up, who
Yep.
needed hours with athletes
Yeah.
in the environment chamber,
Wow.
and they were able to tick that off as their time, and I was able to tick it off as heat
Training.
acclimatisation. And they just said it. They'd literally say, "What do you want?" Every time I'd walk in, they'd say, "What do you want?" And I say, "Well, I'll have 28 degrees, please, and I'll have 85% humidity." And
Yep.
they'd get it ready, and I'd go in and I'd try and deal with that. And yeah, that was brilliant for heat
Oh,
acclimatisation.
that's
That
so
made a
smart.
huge.
That's not what I would have. I didn't think didn't think
It
they
was
did that,
brilliant.
and I wouldn't have thought to have done that.
Yeah, it was so good.
So
What
smart.
a lot of the athletes that I was doing in the Lakers that I was a part of,
Oh yeah.
I'm still I'm still friends with a lot of them.
Yep.
They would going into the laundry and setting up their trainers. So they'd put their trainer
Is
in
that
the
why
laundry.
everybody trains in the laundry?
Yeah, put your trainer in the laundry, throw a couple of wet towels in the dryer,
Yeah.
turn the dryer on.
Or train in the garage with the
And you
garage
crank
door down. Yeah. fair
Yeah,
enough.
so and it gets hot and humid, and you get used to training in this hot, humid environment. It's
that
not very
explains it.
scientific, but
it works.
yeah, it does the trick.
So from all this sport, where did the trainer part come in? So after you left your job as being a drafter, so that's kind of how we have lots of friends of
Yeah.
friends, because that's what we both do. Why did you not want to go back into the building industry and become a trainer?
I sort of half fell into it.
Okay.
Every boss that I've ever had in drafting, and I've been a draftsman for 23 years.
Yeah.
Every architectural firm that I've ever worked for, or building firm that I've ever worked for, the bosses or the managers have always said, "Why the hell aren't you in the fitness industry? What are you doing in this? This is clearly not you."
Yeah.
And I'm no, because I couldn't see any longevity in the fitness industry. I said, that's a young people's game, and I want something. Originally, when I picked drafting, one of the considerations that led me to drafting was I want to be able to train my whole life. So it's funny how I picked drafting because I wanted to keep fit.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I keep fit and I keep doing a sport, at some times I'm going to get injured. I'm going to be busted.
Yeah.
And I can sit in a chair and do drafting
You know what?
and
So
still
one of
do
the
my job while I'm broken.
It's funny that you say that, because one of the guys in my office, he goes, "Oh, you bloody drafties, you're all so messed up from training. That's why you come drafting. Then you come drawing, and then you're so messed up from drawing, you have to go back training again." I said, honestly, training is my mental health capacity to come back and be able to draw again.
And I'm bang on all the time on Instagram
Yeah.
about how me,
good,
me and my best friend, we train together a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. We
Also a drafty. It's
also
it's-
drafty, yeah. And the two of us really, I think what formed our friendship was the mental health aspect
of drafting screws you up.
well, yeah.
And we have to go and
The
train
mental
in the
health
gym.
aspect of what health and fitness did for us, and still to this day does. We still, she's my best friend, and most of the time we catch up, we're training.
Yeah, isn't it
We
crazy?
don't often do other stuff
Yeah.
other than training.
Yeah, so go and find it's most of us drafties need to
Yeah.
go and be fit on the side to keep
So,
going.
so to answer your question, everyone's always said, "Why don't you get into the fitness industry?"
Yep.
And I became friends with the girl who owns the gym that we train in our lunchtimes.
Yeah.
So we did weights almost every lunchtime.
Yep.
And then the girl who runs that, she'd always said, "Why don't you get into health and fitness? You need to be in this industry." And eventually, again, my friend Boz, she had done a course she'd doing her supervisor's license and her building course, and I thought, well, if she can do a course, I can do a course.
I'm thinking of doing that next year.
And I stayed back with her a few late nights, helping her get through that, and sort of saw the effort that she was putting in, and she inspired me to think, you know what, and and I'd trained with her and helped her. And originally, when we started training together, I was originally helping her.
Yep.
And she wanted to make some changes in her life and get herself fitter. And I said, yeah, happy to help out. And what sort of started as me helping her became us helping each other.
Yeah,
and
crazy.
us being on an even playing field, I suppose you'd say, and just being my training partner.
Yeah.
Each of us encouraging and pushing each other the same amount. And to see the change in her, not just physically, but mentally.
It's so good when
and
you say that.
hear her talk to me about things that I'm absolutely would not talk about on this podcast, but the place that she was
Yeah.
and come to the mental place that she is and the things that she's able to do, I just can't put into words. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And to see the changes in her more mentally than physically. Physically, the changes are unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's chalk and cheese. It's amazing to see what she's done. And people now, when she walks down the street, people stop her and people ask what sport she plays. And now she's gone to the point where she just doesn't bother saying I don't do a sport because the argument's too much. She just says I play for the Matildas, and they go, oh yeah, I've seen you.
That's such a good one.
Or people will stop her. I've seen plenty of times people will stop as you walk past the pub and ask her to arm wrestle because her arms are so good. Her physique is amazing, but that's the least of it. That's just a representation of what's going on inside. She's
crazy.
mentally just in such a better spot. So that's a long-winded way of saying what I got from that whole experience and still get. I wanted a small taste of that.
Yeah.
In maybe a professional life, or even not in a professional life. I thought if I do my
like a side hustle.
Yeah, if I do my Cert 3 and 4, then I can say to people, I'm a qualified personal trainer.
Yeah.
I can help you out. And I never actually thought that I'd draw a dollar from it. I never intended to draw a dollar from it. I just thought if I get that qualification, then when someone else says to me, hey, I've seen what you've done with her. Do you reckon you can help me? I go, yeah, I can.
Yeah, nice. Did you do your Cert 3 and 4 then? Did you?
I enrolled for that.
Yep.
Early this year.
Yeah.
Right at the start of the year, I enrolled for it.
Who did you go through?
That is through, it's called Vast Academy.
Yep.
And I thought, my life's so crazy in terms of things that I do that I've got 2 kids. I'm busy seeing them, and then I train 2 or 3 times a day every day. And then I had a full-time job as a draftee, and then I live with my mum and I'm her full-time carer as well.
Yeah.
And she's got advanced rheumatoid arthritis and a lot of health struggles that needs care. So my life's pretty full on. And I thought,
Just a little.
I've got absolutely no time to do this course.
Yeah.
But I'll enroll and I'll try and find a way. And I hadn't found a way. And then come the day that the building industry, as you know, is up and down and all over the place. And we lost 69 people in our company in one morning.
Wow.
And I was lucky enough to be one of them.
Yeah.
Didn't see that coming, came into work on a Tuesday morning and didn't finish the day.
Yeah.
And I won't say her name, but because she's working in a few different places, sent her a message and said, hey, you don't have anything going, do you? And I'm about to be made redundant. She said, I do. I've got a position.
Isn't it crazy how things happen like that in
Yeah.
life?
Do you want to come in for a chat this afternoon? Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. And I went and had a chat. She said, I've got this spot at this place. Are you interested? And I was like, really? This could happen? She said, yep. We've got an academy running in 2 weeks.
Wow.
I'll need to know by the end of the week if you want to do it. The spot's yours if you want it. I think you'll be great.
It's literally like one door slammed
Yeah.
shut, then the other one came straight open.
And she said, I see you every day. I know what you do and I know what you two do together, and I see the way you go about your life and I see the way you go about training with her, and I reckon you'd be great at it. And I thought, oh shit, I've got to make a call here.
Yeah.
And then talking with Bozzy as, my best mate and my training partner, and as she said, you've got a redundancy package here. You've got time to think.
Yeah, exactly.
You've always wanted to do this. You'll need to finish your Cert 3 and 4. This will allow you that capacity. She's given you this opportunity to go and do this.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, well, what if you're lost? You're basically being paid for 6 months to do this. If you don't like it, go back to drafting.
Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't get a better opportunity. And I thought, you know what, let's give it a go. And everyone that I said that I was giving it a go has said, yep, good move. That's you.
Yeah.
So I was into the academy within like 2 weeks and got through that, and then
Here you are.
here we are, and it's
And so
somewhat
you're working as a trainer now?
well, sort of.
Okay.
So yes, I got the gig, and then it's a franchised business,
Yep.
and the head office had said no because you haven't finished your Cert 3 and 4 yet,
Okay.
and you haven't, or you either have to have finished your Cert 3 and 4,
Mhm.
or you have to be a clinical Pilates instructor,
Okay, what's
of
easier?
which I was neither,
Yeah.
but I was ready to go.
Mhm.
And all the clients were saying, when are you on the full roster, you're ready to go, and I was teaching half classes and all ready to go.
Yeah.
And literally 2 days beforehand, head office said, nah, not
yeah.
yet. You need one of those too. How quickly can you get one? So I did some research, and so I'm now just a large percentage of the way through my clinical Pilates instructor's course,
Yeah.
which is something that I'd never intended to do either. But now I'll have that feather in my cap, and that'll be brilliant. And that's given me so much already.
And it's such a boom at the moment, Pilates, and
It's
for
huge.
recovery as well.
Oh, it's huge, and it's. I think it's still got scope to only get bigger. At the moment,
yeah.
it's still got that female centric sort of feeling about it, and
Yep.
a few men are starting to get into it. But with something like Strong, which is a Pilates based, they call it Pilates inspired.
Okay.
They've got cardio at one end, and they've got weights, and they've got dumbbells, and then they see blokes, and they've got AFL players who are promoting it, and there's.
Then a lot of them own franchises as well in the eastern states.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are ambassadors.
Yeah.
And again, I don't follow AFL, so I don't know the names and I don't know the faces. And I even shared on my social media one day, I shared a bloke who was doing Strong and said, why don't you come down and give this a go?
Yeah.
Here's a bloke doing it. And a few people said, I can't believe you shared a photo of him. I'm like, what do you mean of him? Like, you sharing an AFL player, like he's, I'm like
your mate.
who's that? Like, I had no idea. And still to this day, I don't know the guy, but it was some guy who's apparently the best known AFL player in the country. I wouldn't have a clue.
Crazy.
So, yeah. So hopefully within the next month or so, I'll be back on the full-time roster for that. And then I'll be back finishing my Cert 3 and 4, but I'll have my clinical Pilates instructors
Be loaded.
accreditation as well, and I can then do mat work in instructing, and I can do reformer instructing, and
Yeah, a bit of everything.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
brilliant.
You've spoken a lot about injury and recovery. So how important do you think it is to recover properly to come back to either a sport or get back into training? And what's the best ways to do it?
Well,
What's your best ways?
there are varieties of ways to do it, and as I've got older and become more mature, I've now found recovery being so super important. I don't know, like that's also, if you look at social media and people getting into recovery, and that's where things are won and lost, as you and I know, and a lot of people in the fitness industry know. The sessions that you do are the causing damage part to your body.
Yeah, of course.
And all the gains are done in the recovery. And so
like you were saying about your back injuries, what did you learn from those and coming back to become stronger?
I'm still learning. And Pilates is helping
a lot too.
Unspeakably so much with the strengthening my core and being able to help with that. And my physio is the head physio of the Australian Olympic team, and he was saying to me before my first back operation, you need to be doing Pilates.
Yeah, right.
And the more I get into Pilates, he keeps saying, remember me telling you this back in 2011? Yeah, I know.
12 years later.
Yeah. And look, I'm now in your practice and I'm studying. So the recovery stuff is just massive. Whether it be recovery from individual sessions or recovery from an injury or recovery from...
What's your favourite way to recover? So like I've spoken about my recovery session, so I make a thing every Saturday afternoon to go to Next Gen and get in the sauna, and I do 3 to 4 rounds of 10 minutes in the sauna, 10 to 15, depending how hot it is in there. Because, you know,
the new
a couple of men get in there and put some oils on and it gets really hot sometimes.
Yeah, well, the new heater is really hot.
Yeah, well, the one upstairs is better anyway. And then you get in the ice bath for about 5 to 7 minutes, and then either the steam room if it's working, and then do that for
So I
3 or
try
4
and do at
rounds?
least 1 20-minute sauna after every swim. So
Yeah.
that's 3 times a week. And then I try and stick in another one if I can. If I can get 3 to 4 saunas a week, that's great.
Yeah, nice.
Sometimes if I've got the time, I'll do
See, I just do that in one session.
well, sometimes I'll do a double sauna session. So I'll
Yeah.
do 2 20-minutes
Yeah.
with a nice plunge in the pool that you swim in. I use as an ice bath. Or
It's not that cold.
oh no, it's freezing.
It's so good. But I've always been known, so Dad has this thing he always says that when I was a kid, we went on holiday to Queensland, and it was probably like June or July, so it was freezing up there. Anyway, there was this pool outside a hotel room, and there was literally ice cubes on the top of this pool.
Yeah.
And guess who was in it?
Yeah.
Me, all the time. I've literally not changed since I was 10 and getting in the
no.
ice pools.
So I bought an ice bath, sort of listening to all this sort of new wave of ice bath fad, and I watched I watch a lot of podcasts online, and Andrew Huberman was the one who really got me
My
into
brother
it.
was telling me about him last weekend and said to go and watch him.
Huberman's one of my favourite podcasters.
He's a neuroscientist?
Yeah. And I watched a 3-hour podcast that he had on cold shock therapy.
Can you send this to me? And we'll put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's brilliant, and I've watched it a number of times.
Yep.
And it's all evidence based, and everything that he spoke about, I thought I need that. Like every single point that, I need that, I need that, but I hate cold. So I bought one of the cheap $120 ice baths, and I was doing that last summer almost every morning.
I think I'm going to get into that this summer.
And it's good.
Yeah. I remember hearing you jump in as I was getting ready to go to the gym.
Man, like
and I was like, oh, he's in the ice bath again.
5 o'clock in the morning, getting into 5 degrees.
Yes.
And I'm
Thanks
doing
for being my alarm.
Oh,
it's nicer to wake
man.
up than the Apple alarm.
Oh, geez. So yeah, I wouldn't say I like that. I love the saunas, but I do love the combination at Next Gen of
Bit of both.
doing the sauna and then doing the cold plunge and then doing the sauna.
Honestly,
and then doing
I find
the
I
cold
sleep
plunge.
so well that night after like a good recovery session too.
Yeah.
And then my next week of training is so much better.
Yeah. And I like to do my long rides on a Saturday, most Saturdays if I can, anywhere from 6 to 7 hours on the bike. So anywhere from 100 to last weekend I did 155. Like in summer, I'm often up around 200 Ks on a Saturday. And I've got a pair of those Normatec legs and the hips, and nothing better than on a Saturday night to get in the recliner and put my legs up and do an hour of just I just don't get time in front of TV.
Yeah,
I don't have TV. I used to have people when I was drafting say, "What are you watching on Netflix?" What?
Yeah, I literally
don't.
maybe half an hour on the TV. Like on the weekend, I'll watch something. But honestly, I listen to more podcasts at the moment.
Yeah, well, I'll have TV on as I'm unpacking my bags from the current day and repacking my bags for the night before. But honestly, I get home at 8 o'clock at night and I try to get to bed by sort of 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'm probably awake at the place I sleep for half an hour to an hour every night.
Yeah.
That's it. And then I'm up and I'm out of the door by 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
so I don't sit around watching TV. So on a Saturday night, if I can put the Normatec legs on and be stuck there in front of the TV or just watching a podcast or something, it's that would be my favourite. And when your legs are really sore.
Yeah.
And I love to empty the tank on the bike.
Yeah.
Like I love nothing better. Like last Saturday's ride, I realised the lights were out.
I saw that on your Instagram and I was like, oh man, that's a long ride.
The lights were out I was at the bay and I had to come back up Anzac Highway, and we live 16 k's out of the city to the northeast. So it was probably about 30 k's to go, and it's predominantly uphill, and I was done.
There's a tram, in the
yeah. And my mum had said, "Why don't you get an Uber?" And I'm like, "Nah, this is part of part of what I like doing is completely emptying the tank." And I love that feeling of getting off the bike going, "Oh, I'm so cooked." But then as you said, then you have to do the recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to try and get the fluids in and get the electrolytes in and get the magnesium in and the right nutrition, and do the things like lying on your back and getting your legs up above your heart and doing all of those sorts of things. I find that I love the process, and going back to the whole Ironman thing. What I enjoy about Ironman more than the actual race day is the process.
Yeah, right.
I just love process. I love that starting and building the base.
That's why you're a drafty.
Yeah. I love process and I love routine.
Yeah.
I love.
Well, you're fairly similar on that kind of thing.
Yeah, just going through that, building a base, and okay, from base work, we're now going to move into power, speed, and then speed and power, and now we're going to sharpen it up, and we're going to, and I just love that.
How good.
Yeah.
So you said you're a dad. What's the importance from a dad's perspective to kind of show your kids how to have a fit and healthy lifestyle?
From my perspective, I just want my kids to know that that's normal.
Yeah.
What I do is normal, and I know a lot of parents want whatever it is they do for their kids to see that as normal, but I don't want, like, my kids don't understand drinking, and I'm not an anti-drinker, and I don't consider myself a non-drinker. I haven't had a drop of alcohol for year and a half.
Well,
And
you feel better for it too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you a big drinker before?
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Right through my water polo career, it's like a footy sort of culture. It's drinking is a big part of the water polo culture, and always was. And
it's quite a lot of sport culture.
Yeah, and a lot of sports
and building industry culture.
yeah. And people used to ask me when you were living at the AIS, how come you all used to go out and get blind 2 or 3 times a week? Well, it was on 3 times a week, but some were. But it was often Friday nights and Saturday nights. And why would you do that? And my guess at the time was we were just trying to be more normal than normal people.
Yeah, right.
We'd train ourselves so hard that we will now go out and be normal.
Yeah.
But we were trying to be more normal than the normal people. And by nature of the sort of person who's at the AIS.
How tall everybody else is.
Yeah. And by nature of the sort of person that's at the AIS, they're an obsessive, compulsive sort of a person who takes things to extremes.
Yeah.
And so did the same with drinking.
Wow, interesting.
And the more I got into cycling, the more I wanted to, like, jump on my bike at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning as opposed to be hungover.
Yeah.
And that's where that sort of started. That came from. And I started drinking less and less and less as time went on, and I wanted to be better at my sport. And the more I put into what I wanted to do as my sport and my health and fitness, the less I wanted to drink, because I learned more about what alcohol can do to your body.
Yeah.
That I was trying to do everything else, all these little things. If I just did this one big thing and just took that out, I noticed you don't drink one night. You don't drink Saturday night. Yeah. And I used to notice massive differences in my training. So that's a bit of background to I don't drink a lot.
Yep.
I say I don't drink a lot. I haven't had any alcohol for over a year and a half.
That's fun. Well done.
And my ex, she doesn't drink much either, almost never. She, again, I'm not against drinking. Anyone who wants to drink, fine. I'm not. I don't.
Just for you personally.
For me personally, it's my choice that I don't choose to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't want my kids thinking that it's normal to go and get daddy a beer and I don't like the idea of kids seeing their parents throwing up and those sorts of things. So that's a long-winded way of saying I want my kids to see health and fitness as just normal. It's and just what's done. It's nothing different. It's nothing to think is a battle. It's nothing to think is something that I then have to go and do. Like some kids, or a lot of kids, I certainly was one of them. Shit, I got to eat my veggies. Like eating my veg. Ugh. Yeah. I want my kids to know that
you need those to be healthy and fit and strong.
Going out and doing gym, daddy's doing gym, that's just what he does. Yeah. That's just part of life. And it was funny when I started doing the strong, it was really good. I had this long, on Tuesdays we have what's called loaded lower. Yeah. So it's predominantly a leg session with the cardio infused stuff as well. So you'll do a block of either rowing or riding, and then you'll do some leg strength stuff, whether it be on the row former or it be with dumbbells or your squats or whatever you're doing, and then you go back to and I was struggling to walk, and my daughter, who's now 9, she said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Oh, my legs are stuffed." And we were doing it strong, and we were doing some Bulgarian split squats. And she said, "Oh, what's Bulgarian split squat?" And I said, "Oh," and I tried describing it. She said, "Can you show me?" And I said, "Nah, you'll do one now." And so I taught her how to do them, and she went and got her dumbbells. She's got some dumbbells, she went and did them, and I said, "Put your foot up there," and I made her do it, and I counted her through no, this is the strong tempo. You have to go. Now let's go down for 4, 3, 2, 1. Now let's hold.
Yeah.
And now back up for 4, 3, 2, 1. And
And
the
then
look
she
she gave me, she was like, oh my God.
She has some sympathy for your sore legs.
Well,
then.
and then I noticed the next few weeks, she was doing little fitness courses that she was setting herself
Oh my
in the
God, I love
backyard. And this
that.
9-year-old was doing these little shuttle runs, and she had skipping stations, and then she had like a chin-up station, and then she had push-ups, and then she had these Bulgarian split squats that she
Oh,
was doing.
so
And
good.
the feeling that I got from my kids thinking, well, Daddy does this, I'll do that as well. It
I
was
love
just
that.
brilliant.
It's like so heartwarming to know that you've had that effect on your children.
It was excellent. It
Yeah.
was so good. And I thought back to my time as a kid watching my dad go and ride his bike up Anstey
Yeah.
Hill, and me just knowing that that's what Dad did.
So it's so weird. I came from like a completely different like background. Like my parents, like neither of them are fit. And so I remember Mum went to the gym for about 3 months at one point. She come home like, this is crap. I'm never going back again. And then I started playing sport, just fell in love with it. And
Yeah.
so my parents are like, look, they'll go for like a walk and whatever. And yeah, Mum walks daily with the dog and all that kind of stuff. And that's her enjoyment and being fit. But yeah, it's interesting coming from a background where I never saw that. Whereas I wish I saw what you're giving your daughter, because that
It's
is
brilliant.
really inspiring.
It's amazing. Our son just turned 6,
Yeah.
and we bought him a bike for his 6th
Your
birthday.
videos of this,
Oh,
I
it's
love
the
seeing
best.
it.
It's the best.
The
I
best
can't-
part when you like both get your bikes out and they look the
it's unreal.
same.
And so both of them have got a Trek, and then I had my triathlon race bike there at their place, and then so they still live. I'm living with my mum, full-time carer for her.
Yeah.
Bit of background there. I see my kids pretty well every day, and
Yeah.
I'm there every day, and we've got a good enough relationship that we still co-parent quite well.
Yeah.
And I've got some stuff there at their place, and one of them was my race bike.
Yeah.
And you can't ride your triathlon TT bike
No.
into the playground and up over the grass and through the dirt.
Although all the mums would look at you, but you might
So-
pick up a mum like that.
So I bought a mountain bike so that I could ride with them a few weeks back.
Oh no, a triathlon person on a
And-
mountain bike. Here we go.
And it's just been
So cute. the
again
videos
one
are
of the most
best.
rewarding things to be taking my son down to the linear park, and we're riding along. We're up over grass and we're through dirt, and then to hear him say, "Daddy, I love riding with you."
Aw,
It's like,
that's so
it's
cute.
so cool.
Does that take you back to memories of when you used to do it with your dad as well?
Absolutely.
So good.
And I lost my dad in 2010, and not a day goes by when I don't miss him and miss those times when I could have spent time with him on the bike. And so to do it with Jackson and
the
Annabelle,
best.
it's so good.
So good.
And I can't speak highly enough of, or more passionately about getting kids off screens. And it's so hard to get your kids off screens. And it's so easy to let them. I do it myself.
Yeah.
Anyone who says they won't let their kids get on a screen is a bullshit artist.
Yeah.
It's so like,
Look, there's time and places when your kids to get on screens. Like if you're out at dinner, like
exactly.
shut them up for 10
and I
minutes,
was
or
in
in the car on a long drive.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
exactly.
Like, I
And I
absolutely
was in
get
the
it.
doctor's the other day, and he said to them, "Do you want to just go out in the waiting room?" I'm like, "No, I'm not sending him out in the waiting room." And Jackson said, "Can I watch YouTube on your phone?" Yes. So I put my earpods
Absolutely.
in.
That's
So that
the
was fine.
face And
And he gets the iPad out at home, and he's obsessed, and he'll get on it, and I'll go, "Oh, what are we going to do? Do you want to go outside?" Nah. Do you want to jump on the bike with Daddy? Yep, let's go. And
Yeah,
we'll go
I
for a
love that.
10K ride. He can ride 10 or 13 Ks.
so good for his little legs.
It's
if they're going to
so
be as
cool.
long as yours,
It's
he's got full
it's
potential.
just so cool. So as I said, those things with Annabelle, my daughter, to see her lifting weights
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
doing squats and doing split squats, and him riding the bike, and then we go and we play some basketball. For them to see that as it's not an event. It's not anything different. That's just what you do, and
lifestyle
that's just life.
That's the best.
It's brilliant. They go with their mum, and if she's got them and I can't, most of the time, if one of us are busy, the other one can take them.
Yeah.
But if she's got an occasion, say in the school holidays where I'm working or studying or something like that, and I can't take them, and she's got them, she's done over, I think it's over 700 F45 classes. And she just take them to F45, and they'll just sit there and they'll watch mummy do F45.
Good.
Or now, so I think it's Fit Stop or whatever it is she does. And it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm in full support
Love
of that.
I love that. When I used to do CrossFit, the kids used to come and watch.
It's so cool.
Good.
There's a little girl Lexi that I've become friends with, who's 6 years old, down at Strong at Modbury, and she comes in, she just hangs out and she watches her mum train, and it's brilliant for her, like, to see her, to know that mum, that's just what you do.
Yeah.
It's nothing different.
So
It's I can't put into words how
I love
good it
that
is.
so much. That's what excites me so much, to have kids and to like teach them that technology, you don't always need it.
Yeah, it's so good, and health and fitness is just what you do.
Yeah.
It's not anything different. It's not something that even requires effort and thought. It's part of daily routine. Every morning, Dad gets up and rides his bike.
Yep.
We know that. Every lunchtime, Dad goes to gym.
Yeah.
Dad will go for a run, or sorry, can't do this. Got to, even if it's taking the dog for a walk, whatever it is, that's just normal.
Listener question: what's your number one motivation with your success and podium? Personal motivation to be the best you, or is it just in pure enjoyment and a love of the sport?
It's a whole combination of everything. I think it has to come from various locations, various ways. As I said, since Boz and I became really close mates, we spur each other on, and we message each other or talk to each other all day, every day. And it's like, hey, what are you doing now? What am I doing now? If, like, we lift together 3 times a week. We were lifting 6 times a week through our hypertrophy block. Yep. But if she's doing Pilates down at Fernwood, what are you doing? And like, okay, I'm doing this.
It's accountability that's really strong.
Okay, well, we'll talk the night before. So she'll go, okay, so what's your routine for the morning? Are you swimming in the morning, or what are you doing? It's not she knows it's not a swimming morning. So what is it that you're doing? Yeah. Well, I'll get up and I'll do whatever it is. So that's one of my motivators. Yep. Being healthy and fit is another huge motivator. Yep. So another good one for you to listen to is Peter Attia, who, I don't know if you've listened to any of his stuff. Yep,
send me another link.
Yep, another link. Peter Attia is one of my favourite podcasters, and he's a GP, and he's just written a book called Outlive that he's just released, and it's about how not only you can live longer, but how you can live healthier and better for longer.
Oh, good.
And he won't even begin to try and go into what he says his theories are, but I've listened to a lot of his stuff and try and take on a lot of his practices and his studies on living longer and healthier, and looking at my practices and looking at my routines and what I'm doing not only can improve my quality of life now, but can improve my quality of life later. Yeah, and as he says, the decline will come. Doesn't matter what age you are.
You don't know when it's going to happen.
You're not going to beat Father Time. The decline will come. So you need to put yourself in the best possible position for when that decline comes. And then as that decline comes, you need to be able to stave that off for as long as possible and reduce that decline. That's another huge motivator. And as I said, Bozzy and the interaction with her, and it's not the competitiveness. It's
just having a training buddy to keep you accountable.
Yeah, and I said in one of your previous podcasts, if it's not just a training partner, it's a training group. Yeah. If you can have a group like this group that I started cycling with, we used to all spur each other on, and that was more of a boys' club. That was less encouraging.
Boys
and
on
more
bikes. Ooh, that's dangerous.
That was a very blokey, bravado-y sort of a group that you all used to hang shit on each other. And it maybe not so positive, but you got together as a group and being included in a group, and I think that's a real motivator as well. Nice.
So another question, one of my friends, it goes, some of the followers or listeners of the pod have rumoured to call you Hot Neighbour. What do you think about that? They literally don't know your name. That's what you're known as.
Well, I didn't know that.
Well, welcome. I just thought we'd chuck something funny in at the end.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I didn't know. That's good. I'll take it.
Time for our 5 fast questions. So you choose a number between 1 and 20. First thing that comes to your mind, I need you to spit it out. So choose a number.
13.
All right, number 13 is stuck in an island. What's 3 items you're taking with you? First things that come to your mind. Stop thinking about it.
I don't know. My bathers. Yeah. I love swimming. Geez, that's a hard one. A towel.
Yeah, that could help. One more.
And I don't know, stuck on an island. Something to cook with.
Okay, good one. All right, next
Gee
number.
whiz. Next number. 7.
Okay, number 7. What's your coffee order?
Long black or double shot espresso, depending on how I'm feeling at the time.
All right, next one.
Next number.
Yeah.
5.
Okay, favorite saying or motto to live by?
It used to be for years, and I had it written everywhere, and it was a Lance Armstrong quote, which is somewhat controversial these days, but I still think that he was the best road cyclist ever.
Yep. Before or after he pops up.
He had a quote, "If better is possible, good is never enough." And I had that on all my training diaries through my water polo career. And I used to really think a lot about that. Like, if better is possible, good is never enough.
Yeah.
And what are you doing? What have you done today? Have you lifted that? Was that good?
Yeah.
Like, well, but is there better? Can you do better than what you did?
That's a good
and
one.
every single time, and it really helped me in everything I did.
Yeah.
I'd swim. I know I'm going into this and it's meant to be fast, but swimmer, say 100 meters or a 50 meters, and they go, is better possible? And better's always possible.
Yeah.
And you go, can I do better than that? So I think that one's
So
just
good.
brilliant.
All right, next number.
11.
All right, 11 is, as a kid, what job did you want?
I don't know as a kid. I think I was one of those people that got to like year 11 and I was like, shit, I got to get a job at some point. And what am I going to do? And I don't know. I remember when I just sort of started getting into architectural drafting at probably in year 11 was about the time that I started thinking about that.
Fair
I
enough.
couldn't tell you.
And last one, number.
Let's go 2.
Okay, number 2. Coffee with somebody dead or alive. Who is it?
Oh, that would probably be Kobe Bryant.
Wow, good one.
Yeah, he's such an amazing person to listen to any of his interviews and his thoughts on life, and not just he.
Where were you when he died? Do you remember? Or when you found out?
Yeah, so I had pneumonia and I was lying in bed quite sick after having ridden to Lofty with pneumonia.
Oh my God, trust you to do that.
And yeah, that was the celebrity death that hit me the hardest out of
it's the
anything.
biggest one that I remember.
It floored me. I was
in
distraught.
a hotel room in Milan, and I literally had just got in the hotel room from being out for the day, and it came up like all this breaking news. Somebody had died.
Superman doesn't die.
No, it was about the helicopter crash had happened and somebody was in it that we knew.
Yeah.
And then
I remember
I was
as it
sitting
developed.
there, I was literally scrolling like Instagram or Facebook on my phone, and everybody's sharing all these posts. I was like, this is weird, like what's happening? And I kept watching on, and then it got announced. And then I went to America a week later, and I was in LA
God.
maybe a week and a half later, and I just remember it was crazy.
Well, that's interesting. I can draw parallels to I was in England. I can remember when Princess Di passed away. And we were away for World Uni Games.
Yeah.
And I was swimming in the Mediterranean, and one of the umpires swam out and he went, "Hey, Princess Di's just died." I went, "Huh?
Jeez.
No, she hasn't." So I went to England and I was standing at Kensington Palace seeing all the flowers and people sobbing. And
That's
so I can
crazy.
understand how that was. But the Kobe Bryant thing really hit me, not only for his personal, for the sporting stuff that I thought that was really all I knew about back then. Him and Gianna and being the father of a young girl just absolutely tore my heart out. And then hearing how he wanted to be a better dad and listening to every interview that I could about, I like hearing his interviews about him as a parent. And it just, he's someone to aspire to in his parenting style, let alone his sporting style.
Is that your favourite team, LA then?
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Fair enough.
I grew up as a Bull supporter, watching Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
But the nearest thing to Michael Jordan, I still believe, was Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And Jordan still says he's the nearest thing. Kobe Bryant was the nearest thing to him.
Yep.
Because he stole all his moves. And that's what Jordan says still.
That's such a good one. PB and PW time. So it's something good that happened in your week and something that wasn't great.
Well, the I guess the not great would be.
So you always start with the worst. So our PW is our personal worst.
Yeah, that'd be Mum's stacking it on her face 3 times in 4 days and ending up in hospital, and it's been It's been a busy week.
Yeah.
It's been.
Look, being like on the other side of the fence, kind of being there for you in a way.
Yeah,
It's difficult.
been. Yeah, that's been tricky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I reckon my PW week, it sounds like nothing compared to yours, but bloody swimmers here. You know how annoying that is? I've been swimming constantly, probably twice a week for about a year now. And yeah, I think it's the aquatic centre. That water there is pretty manky.
Yeah.
But swimming with earplugs I bought from Rebel Sport this week. Game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only had
honestly
that a few times.
Yeah, it's not fun.
It's not fun at all.
And
I've had a
it's
few.
it's not, it's really hard to treat as well.
It is.
So
It's
we're on the other side of that. We're good to go again.
not fun.
Not fun. Painful too.
It is really painful.
Yeah, I didn't really know much about it until I Googled more into it.
Yeah,
And then,
I've had it probably 2 or 3 times and
I
haven't
went to
had
the
it for
doctors
years.
and she's like, "You sure?" And I was like, "Oh, I know."
Yeah, it hurts.
Yeah, and then PB, your personal best of the week.
Oh, that would be. I don't know.
Anything could be simple as your coffee this morning.
Yeah, well, coffee was good this morning. Let's go with weights today was quite good.
Yeah, good session.
Yeah, good session this afternoon.
Yeah.
We both of us had a really sort of trying time going on, and nothing that I'll get into on this short thing, but
But good to clear it out.
great to get in there
Love
and just
that.
blow it out and work hard, and that was
Nice.
brilliant. Yeah.
My PB of the week. Oh, that's a tough one. You know what? We had a pizza lunch at work today and it was so nice
yum.
to sit with the team around and just talk. It's like rare that we all do that. But I reckon that was my PB of the week.
I
I looked forward to that all week and it
Yeah.
came. It's like, that's pretty good.
I can completely understand that.
Love
People say all the time, "Oh, do you love lollies? Do you like chocolate?" And lollies and chocolate,
No,
not
I'm a
for me,
salty
but
person.
pizza or hot chips, they're mine.
Oh, stop. I'm hungry now. And then to finish off, what's your recommendation? So what have you been listening to or watching this week?
Well, as I said, yeah, Andrew Huberman. I love listening to Andrew Huberman.
I love that.
Any of his stuff, and he's got a huge range of things, and he's brilliant at the way he conveys his message,
Yeah.
and he's an incredibly intelligent, learned scientist, but he
Yeah.
doesn't talk in a way that is
I
hard
really
to
have to get
understand.
onto him. Like,
he's
a lot of people are talking about
he's
him.
unreal, and he can do. He's also, his cousin is Tom Segura, the comedian.
Oh,
So he can do the comedy podcast as well. And I got onto him through Joe Rogan because I'm a big Joe Rogan
Yeah.
fan. So Huberman's excellent, but Peter Attia, I can't recommend listening to him.
We'll tag them and I'll have a listen as well.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
I reckon my record of the week, you know Hamish Blake and his podcast, How Other Dads Dad?
I've heard,
I've-
I haven't listened to one of them, and I've heard that's
Honestly,
really
I
good.
started listening this week in the Scotty Cam episode.
Yeah.
Amazing. The stuff that he was talking about, how he brought his kids up, and yeah, really good.
That's one I should
I
look
think you
into.
need to get onto that one.
Yeah, being a dad, I guess.
Yeah, what should-
any info you can get.
And then I listened to the Hugh Van Kylenberg one. He had
Okay.
him on today. Really good.
Haven't heard that.
But yeah, good podcast.
Sorry, while we're talking about these,
Yeah.
there's
Go on.
another one. Rich Roll.
Yep.
His podcasts are brilliant, and the one that he did with Cam Wurf
Yeah.
is just brilliant. Cam Wurf is an amazing athlete. I don't know if you know much about
Yeah, he's a
him.
triathlon guy, right?
Well, he is now.
Yeah. That's
So
why I've heard his name.
He was an Olympic rower,
Oh.
and then as part of their rowing, they do a lot of cycling training, and then
Yeah.
he became a pro tour
Yes,
cyclist.
I heard a podcast on
So
this
he
one
went.
the
He went
other
to the
day.
world champs at rowing, obviously, in
Yep.
the Olympics, and he went to the world champs at rowing, and then he went to the world champs at cycling.
I
and then he got
listened
into
to the podcast with the Jack guy. What's a triathlon? Is it the Triathlon Hour or something?
Okay, no.
Anyway,
no, no,
he
no.
was interviewing him. I listened to
Oh,
this
it's
about a week ago.
He's
He was
just
so interesting.
He's one of the most interesting athletes you'll ever hear. And then he got into triathlon, and he did a gap year from pro cycling.
Yes.
So
yeah.
the Cannondale team fell apart, and then they kept him on, and then he's like, no, I want to get into finance. And then he went and did an Ironman, just went and did one, and like won his age group or something along those lines,
Yeah.
and then thought, is there a chance? I won't go into the whole story because
Yeah.
there's a whole long
I'll
story.
tag the he
that's
talked about it with
brilliant.
Jack. It was really good.
How he got into doing Ironman
Yeah.
is just
So
brilliant.
interesting.
And now he's talking about doing the possible what's the one after Paris? That next Olympics, I think it's
Oh,
LA.
LA, yeah.
So he's talking about doing the LA
Wow.
Olympics. They're talking about doing offshore rowing,
Okay.
which is a more of, at the moment.
Like ocean rowing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he said that'd be a brilliant way to cap off his sporting career,
Yeah.
starting with rowing in the Olympics to finish with rowing at the Olympics
Wow. Yeah.
at like over a huge span.
That's amazing.
That'd be brilliant.
Well, thank you so much for coming on
No
today.
worries.
It's been a good episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks heaps.
No
I
worries.
learned a lot about your life and water
Yeah.
polo that I actually never knew about. But yeah.
Happy to
thanks.
be on board. Yeah, thanks for having me.
We might have to have you on again to go into some more of that stuff.
Sure.
but-
I can talk about sport and health and fitness till the cows
Yeah,
come home.
same here. So that's why it's a long episode today, but I'm
Yeah.
not mad about it.
Oh, well.
So have a good rest of your day. Have a good week and see you
You
next
too.
Wednesday.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.